Hey, we're here in Red Hook with your neighbor Jeff Urbin, who has had a long time interest in composting and is going to give us some tips on the subject. Hello, Jeff.
Hi everybody. I got started with composting about 15 years ago with a single banana peel, and since that time I've probably composted thousands of pounds of beautiful, nice, what we call in composting, black gold. And what I have here is a little setup to show you what it looks like before, during, and after. These two things here are examples of containers that we use in our kitchen. When it was just my wife and I, we used this one here, which was about a gallon and a half. And this is a commercial variety that holds about 2 gallons, and this is what we use for our family of 4. This sits right on the counter in the kitchen, and after we have our banana peels, we put our coffee grinds and those things right in there, and then when that's full, I bring them outside and I dump them into my compost pile. And this is what it looks like at first. You can put eggshells in there, you can put paper towels, banana peels, coffee grinds, even flower clippings and such. After a period of time in the compost pile, it begins to look like this as it starts to break down. We even purchase compostable paper plates so that we're able to compost those after we have dinner, if we're eating outside and such. And then after about 6 months or so, sitting in the compost pile, just some periodic turning, it looks like this. And this is what composters and gardeners refer to as black gold. So it starts off as banana peels and eggshells, and it ends up like this.
But there is other foods, stuffs besides banana peels and eggshells, correct?
Absolutely. Basically what you're trying to do is get a mixture of what they call greens and browns, carbons and nitrogens. And so we put strawberry lids, watermelon rinds, onion peels, bits and pieces of bread. Anything that's not meat can go into the compost pile. Because if you put meat in there, it's going to attract vermin and rodents and varmints and such. So anything that's not meat can go in here. And we also don't put dairy in other than the eggs. You want to try to get a balance between the greens and the browns, and the scientists will tell you there's a certain ratio that you have to have between the greens and the browns, the carbons and the nitrogens. But nature's been doing composting for millions of years, and long before scientists put this stuff out there and figured out what the percentage was, nature knew what it was doing. And if you just mix this, and the best way to tell if it's working is by your sight and by your sense of smell. You obviously can't smell this on video, but you look at this and you think, well, gee, it's a pile of dirt, but this has got a nice sweet smell to it. And if you put this out, take it out of the house quick enough, which is usually every 3 or 4 days this gets filled and we take it out, it doesn't have any smell or odor in the house. And while it's composting, if you get a sour smell or a sort of a rotting kind of a smell, it simply means that it's too wet and you need to put in some more browns or even some shredded up newspaper or paper towel that'll soak up some of that moisture. Then after you do this, all it basically needs to do is to sit. The microbes will come from the ground up into this stuff, and this is like going to Walmart for them. Everything they need is right there, and they just work their way through that and churn right on through that. What you want to do is not let it get packed down. So periodically you'll go through and turn it with a pitchfork, which is something I like to do at the end of a rough day. Sometimes I just come out and spend the first 20 minutes with my compost pile, turning this stuff and knowing that no matter what else is going wrong in my life, my microbes are hard at work here in the backyard. And after you turn that through, I like to sift mine, and I sift it with an old Coca-Cola bottle tray that was left over from an event that we had at work. And I just toss this on here, shake it through, it comes out looking like this, and then this goes back into the compost pile to be still worked on by the microbes and such. Now, a lot of people think that when you start this stuff, there's a lot involved. You can go and you can get the commercial composters, which work wonderfully. I like to do it sort of the old-fashioned way with just a wire fence, chicken wire. Basically, you just need an area that's about 3 feet by 3 feet, so you get lots of nice air in there, and all you're doing is basically containing that so that it doesn't blow around, when it dries up a little bit and such. Then you put in there your table scraps, you put in there your yard waste, your leaves. These are leaves from last fall. And when you go around, you do your trimming, you put small sticks in there, those will compost and break down as well. And you just keep an eye on it and keep sniffing every now and then. If it smells sweet, you're right on track. And as soon as you just sift it out, you're ready to use that. Some people like to get this down to even a finer consistency than this, but this is perfectly fine for me in the flower beds, perfectly fine in the gardens. And this is all stuff that would have ended up in the landfill. Here it is doing nature's process of making it into dirt before, during, and after.
Would you explain a little bit more for me the difference between brown and green material?
Sure. Browns are usually things like leaves, wood chips, tree branches, those kinds of things that you're going to find probably generally outside. Greens would be more your table scrap types of things, the end of your green beans, your banana peels, your eggshells, your coffee grinds, your table scraps, those types of things. Those are nitrogens and carbons, and it's that chemical process that helps it to break down. The microbes love that. Sometimes when you want to get started with this, you may just take a shovel full of dirt. Again, there's commercial products you can get that can get your compost jump started, but all you need is a shovel full of earth. There's more microbes in a shovel full of earth than you'll ever need for composting. Just toss that in there and those guys will go right to town. What I like to do, what you're going to want to do is try to keep it around 50-50 or so with your greens and your browns. You know, if I see that in the fall time, maybe I'll put too many leaves in, and then I'll know that I want to sort of cut back on the leaves and step up the the greens and things from the tables, from the table scraps. You can also put shredded newspapers in there, paper towels, paper products, cardboard boxes. We put our pizza boxes in. We usually just rip them right in half one time, throw them in there, and the microbes will go to town and work on that stuff there as well.
How about thick shells like cantaloupe, melon shells, or pineapple, skins, that kind of?
Can all go in there.
It's okay.
One of the things you're going to find it's kind of interesting is it's neat to see how the different things react. For example, a corn cob will rot from the inside out and becomes hollow, and then will break down that way. The pumpkin lids, the little handles on the pumpkin at Halloween time, those will sometimes take 2 or 3 years before they start to break down. Those things are really tough, the vines on that. But certainly, yeah, you can put, pineapple, your pumpkins, cantaloupe, all that stuff. The smaller the size, the quicker it's going to decompose, the quicker it's going to break down. But you can throw the whole thing in there if you want.
Nutshells?
Nutshells can go in there as well. Yep.
Yeah.
Cashews, walnuts, you name it, can go in.
Huh. And you say it takes about 6 months to get from the before to the after phase.
Yeah, depending upon the weather. You want to, if it's too wet, it's going to take a little longer.
Uh-huh.
If it's too dry, it's going to take a little longer. But my compost, and I think once you get started with this, you're going to want to keep it going. So my compost goes on continually. This is the first harvest of the season that I've got here. But this is the stuff that I put in. This stuff will go in. This stuff went in this morning. Some of this stuff's been in since the fall, and you shake it out, and this is what you get.
And you do this all through the winter as well?
All through the winter as well. What'll happen with the winter time is you just go out and the outside will freeze, and you'll throw stuff onto that, and sometimes it'll just slide right off. Let it snow on there, no problem at all. Inside that pile, your microbes are working, and they're still chewing and chewing and chewing and running around, and it's not uncommon for a compost pile to reach 160 degrees on the inside of the pile. So those little microbes will generate their own warmth and their own temperature regulation, and they'll continue to work for you all winter long. Even though it doesn't look like anything's going on the outside, it's going on the inside.
You mentioned a 3x3 structure, and it's my, amateur observation that some people have 2 such 3x3 structures so that they can move things over in bunches?
Right, that's what a lot of folks will do. They'll start off with this, and then when they sift it down, they'll go to this, and they'll get their final composure down here. All it represents basically is 3 sets of points in the process. What I like to do is when I sift this down, if this stuff doesn't go through my sifter, it just goes right back into the compost pile. Folks that have got the 2 or 3 chambers, this would probably be in their middle chamber. This would end up in their 3rd and final chamber. And again, you can use the commercial varieties, work very well. I was using a compost tumbler for a while, which is a big cylinder that you put the stuff in and then turn with a handle. I prefer to turn it with the pitchfork. Or you can just use You can use a chicken wire, make a chicken wire frame, wire such as this. You can use an old baby crib. If you got an old baby crib that you don't need anymore, put that out there, start throwing your stuff in there. Anything you can contain stuff with. You want to try to stay away from pressure treated material because that will leach into the compost, and if you're going to do vegetables and things, you don't want that stuff going into your soil.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very quick and easy to get started. I started with a single banana peel.
Well, I'd appreciate it if you'd show us your compost pile now.
This is my compost pile. It's made out of nothing more than, these are actually some wire fixtures that they were getting rid of at Filene's. So I recycled those, put a little chicken wire on there just to keep it a little bit tighter in terms of the stuff that comes out. And I just come out and I toss stuff on. You can see here's some eggshells and banana peels and things from the morning. We even throw the cardboard egg containers in here as well. Then what I like to do is just come out, turn it a little bit, get the air mixed in. Here's a bit of pumpkin from last year. That's still working its way through. And we just keep it turned. And that'll get the air mixed in there nice and well. See, there's a lot of these browns from the leaf raking in the fall that have been thrown in there.
You've got a heap of a pile there.
We do, and we keep it going on going.
You must have a fabulous garden.
Well, we do. We have a hard time growing stuff in the backyard, but we do use it for our flower gardens. Flower gardens. Here's a piece of the egg container that's in the process. And then what I do is this. I take a pile of this. When it comes time to harvest, I toss it on here. And I just scrape it back and forth like this. And what goes through is the good stuff. And when I'm done, I just lift that up, right back into the pile. And what we have in here is the nice, good compost.
It's beautiful.
And again, this was recycled from a bottle holder. That's all there is to it. Not a whole lot. Again, you can use the commercial varieties or make them yourself. But one thing is, if you're not composting, you're throwing it all away. All of this would have been in the landfill. It's going to be in my garden in a couple of weeks.
Now, it looks to me about the area that you've allocated to this endeavor is about, would you say, 8 foot by 8 foot? Or 6 foot by 6 foot?
It's probably about, yeah, 6 foot by 6 foot. I added this loop here in the front just to make it a little bit easier to turn and to twist. But that's all you need. You know, it doesn't have to be you know, real fancy. Some people will put a wire frame up, let it compost, and then just break away the wire frame and use that as their compost. But I like to sift mine through and work it through a little bit.
And our viewers can hear, I bet, the traffic going by, so they'll know that we're not way out in the hinterland of farm country, but you're doing it right here in the village.
Right here in the village. And again, we have no problem with animals, no problems with smell. And we probably fill that metal container that's about that big. We probably fill that twice a week. It's probably about 7 to 10 pounds of table scrap that goes in here, and then all the stuff from the yard when it's raked up goes in here as well.
Cool. Great. So you save a lot from going to the landfill, and you've enriched the planet.
And we have fun in the process. Right, you guys?
Yeah.
Have you done this before?
Yeah. She does it every year, so.
Yeah? You help it all with the shoveling?
Yeah, once in a while.
Well, great. So you're never too young to start on this activity.
Nope.
Wonderful.
These are a nice example of browns being added in there. You guys are working almost as hard as the microbes.
Who can tell me about a microbe? Are they like bugs?
Yeah, they're like these really tiny bugs.
Yeah?
That live in the compost pile, and they also live in the dirt. So what they do is they break down the food and turn it into dirt that you can use in your garden.
Are they like worms or bugs?
They're like tiny worms and tiny bugs, but the thing is, they're like really small. You can barely see them.
Uh-huh.
Not at all. But they're really tiny.
They get,
Abby, can you take this?
they get well fed here, don't they?
Yep.
The compost pile really is like a little community because you're going to get your microbes in there, you'll have other little bugs that come through, and worms will come in there as well. And the worms are nice because as they eat their way through the compost pile, they're creating little air tunnels that help aerate the pile, and they're also creating soil as they go along. So it's a nice little community where everybody works together.
I know people who've done worm composting. Have anything to say about that?
I tried a little bit of worm composting. I didn't care for it personally. I like to come out here and be able to turn the compost myself and know that my microbes are working. Some people love the worm composting, and I've actually heard of people doing it in apartments.
Right.
You can get containers and stuff to do that right inside, but there's nothing like coming out on a nice day and turning the compost yourself and you know, seeing the little worms and the compost and the microbes in there as well.
We're so blessed to live in the country and be able to do this.
We sure are. We sure are.
Enjoy the benefits and help the cause.
Absolutely. And it saves you in your pocketbook when you're not paying for the garbage to be hauled away or going to the store and buying fertilizer.
Uh-huh.
You know, usually chemicals and things. This is all 100% natural.
Great. Do these containers for your kitchen countertop have any kind of a filter in them?
Yeah, the commercial ones do. They have a little filter on the top
Uh-huh.
that allows the air to come in, but not the goop to come out. I mean, they're not pretty on the inside,
Uh-huh.
but you know, you set that on your cabinet, and it's certainly an attractive thing to have in your kitchen as well.
Not bad at all.
Composting helps to mitigate climate change by avoiding methane emissions that are generated by organic residues in landfills, and also increasing the amount of organic carbon in the soil, which both sequesters it and improves the soil health.
And I get the feeling that you like to do it because it's just plain fun.
Just plain fun. What kid doesn't like to play in the dirt?
Thank you.